my partner and I will be arguing why women shouldn't be allowed in combat, and my opponents have stated that the current policy prevents women in combat and that the combat exclusion rule should be lifted. The first claim is that women should be able to defend their country to the fullest extent, and they also said that women are already in combat. While this is true, Elaine Donnelly, president of the Center for Military Readiness, has said performing heroically in an ambush is not the same as real frontline combat. So pretty much in all the cases that women have already been in combat, that just happens to be, certain circumstances. It's not always true for frontline combat groups. In addition, they also mentioned that the military was skirting the rule by attaching women to these groups. However, our government relatively recently passed a legislation that made it harder for women to be attached to these groups, and it says, according to Elaine Donnelly in the article, Hunter moves to keep women from combat. It says, Hunter requested that Representative John McHugh, chairman of the Military Personnel Subcommittee, insert language into the National Defense Authorization Act expressly prohibiting women from serving in forward support companies that collocate with combat units 100% of the time. The Hunter-McHugh Amendment passed on a 97 partisan vote on May 11, 2005. My opponents also said that women have earned the right in the past, but according to the Case Against Women, Section 2, in the case Kennedy versus Mendoza-Martinez, it stated, serving in the military is a privilege and sometimes an obligation, conferring neither the right to serve nor the right to avoid service. So basically, no one has the direct right or privilege to serve in the military, not even men. Second, their claim that the Army should be defending the American value of equality. However, we will show that the military exists solely to protect society. In the 1992 Presidential Commission on the Assignment of Women in the Armed Forces stated, civil society protects individual rights, but the military, which protects civil society, must be governed by different rules. In addition, no less than 7 major Supreme Court cases or decisions are distilled in the words from Goldman versus Weinberger, and it states, the military is by necessity a specialized society separate from civilian societies. The military must insist upon a respect for duty and a discipline without counterpart in civilian life in order to prepare for and perform its vital role. The essence of the military service is the subordination of the desires and interests of the individual to the needs of the service. And finally, they brought up the idea of it violating equality and how women should be allowed to try out for combat roles. Under current policy, all men are subjected to involuntary assignment to combat units and subject to the needs of the Army in any position for which they are qualified. So if they're calling for equality, repeal of the combat exclusion rule wouldn't just let women have the opportunity. It would essentially force them into combat roles as men are. And in addition, even women don't want that. According to the Center for Military Readiness, in the article Army Noncompliance with Congressional Notification Law, they stated the Army Research Institute surveys since 1993 have shown that 85% to 90% of female enlisted soldiers are opposed to involuntary combat assignments on the same basis as men. In 2002, that question on the ARI's annual survey was simply dropped because every year the results were always the same. So if you're saying that women should be allowed to try out for combat roles, you can't claim equality if you're saying they should be allowed to volunteer for it or try out and not just be involuntary assigned. So while my partner and I are not claiming that it's unfair, this policy is unfair to women, it is, but we're arguing that the military exists to protect society, and this allows this inequality to be justified. My partner and I will show more in depth why women decrease combat effectiveness, and I'll begin by showing that women are physically inferior to men. According to the National Review, in the article G.I. Jane Again, the female soldier is on average 5 inches shorter than the male soldier. She has half the upper body strength, lower aerobic capacity, and 37% less muscle mass. She also has a lighter skeleton, which leads to a higher incidence of structural injuries than among men. These differences have an adverse effect on the U.S. military's effectiveness. And a report of the Presidential Commission on the Assignment of Women in the Armed Forces found that female dynamic upper torso muscular strength is approximately 50 to 60% that of males, and their aerobic capacity is approximately 70 to 75%. In terms of military significance, at the same marching velocity and carrying the same load as men, the average woman works at a higher percentage of her aerobic capacity. This means that women can't carry as much or as far as men, and they're more susceptible to fatigue. In addition, burdens carried by modern combat soldiers weigh 50 to 100 pounds, and modern body armor alone weighs 25 pounds. Even in current non-combat training, women suffer debilitating bone stress fractures and other injuries at rates double those of men. So my partner and I fully believe that because of these reasons and others that my partner will later present, that women should not be in combat. Thank you.